Welcome to The Blessed Life. I'm continuing a message today that I began last week. And this isn't a message that I preached in our weekend services. It's a message that I preached to our men at our men's conference. And this message literally set thousands of men free in the area of sexual purity. So I want you to listen, and listen carefully, because I promise you, God wants to speak to you today and help you in this area. Watch this. I want you to understand some things about sexual impurity tonight that might help you, no matter where you are in this battle, all right? Here's number one. Impurity doesn't begin in the heart, it begins in the eye. Impurity doesn't begin in the heart, it begins in the eye. David saw Bathsheba, and she was bathing. Okay, here's what I want to know. How long did he look? He could have gone back in and began praying. He probably went back in and got binoculars. Adultery for David began with the eye. He saw something that he shouldn't have looked at, and he kept looking. Here's what I've learned. I've had to discipline myself in this area. It's two simple words. This will help you, I promise you. Don't look. Don't look. Look away. Because I'm capturing a memory. And I'm comparing. God never intended me to compare my wife with any other woman. So just don't look. And I've spent years now training myself to look away. Here's the lie of the enemy. I'll look, but I won't touch. Let me tell you something. Window shopping doesn't work in this area. Does not work. Let me read you some verses. Psalm 101, verse 3. I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. What would that say about some of the movies you watch? I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. Proverbs 27:20. Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of a man are never satisfied. Look at Matthew 5. I'm telling you, lust begins with a look. Listen to me carefully. I'm going to show it to you in the Bible. This is a famous verse, and maybe you've never seen it, but watch this. Matthew 5, verse 28. This is Jesus. Matthew 5:28. But I say to you that whoever, what? Whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And watch the very next verse. If your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. That's Jesus talking. He goes right into the eye. Now look at the progression in verse 28. Looks, lust, adultery. Looks, lust, adultery. Now, every one of us know that lust precedes adultery. But I'm telling you that looking precedes lust. I am giving you one of the greatest keys to freedom that any pastor will ever give you. If you'll stop looking, you can control lust. You can get free from lust. It's a very simple thing that you can do. Just stop looking. Stop looking. So that's the first thing I want to tell you. It doesn't begin in the heart, it begins in the eye. Here's number two. Impurity will affect your family. Now here's the reason I'm telling you this, because men actually believe that it won't. They actually believe the lie that they can have private impurity and it will not affect their family. Here's what a lot of men say. Well, I know I have this bondage in lust, pornography, things like this, but I've never committed adultery. If I commit adultery, it'll affect my family. But if it's private, if no one knows it, and I keep it under control, it won't affect my children. What a lie. What a lie. Here's the reason why. There's a difference between transgression and iniquity. You need to understand this, all right? Transgression is when you transgress or you step over a line. We have an English word that's very similar to it as far as the meaning. It's trespass. Trespass. Trespass means you cross over the property line of someone you're not supposed to cross over. You're not supposed to walk, you're not supposed to step over the line. Okay, adultery is a transgression. It's stepping over a line. But listen to me carefully. Lust is an iniquity. Lust is in the heart. Here's another way to say it. Iniquity is the inward motivation. Transgression is the outward movement. Iniquity is the inward motivation. Transgression is the outward movement. You say, I don't understand why I explain this. I'm explaining it because it's very important to understand. Lust is the iniquity. It is the inward motivation. Adultery is then that transgression. Now, listen to me. They're both sin. It's all sin. And Jesus just says, listen to me, if you got lust, you've already done it. You have transgressed. You have sinned. All right? But here's the reason I'm saying this. The Bible doesn't say, and we think it does, it doesn't say that the transgressions of the fathers are passed to the children. It says the iniquities. Listen, a lot of men believe, well, if I never transgress, it won't affect my children. Yes, it will, because the iniquities, the inward motivations, are passed on to our children. If you don't deal with lust, your children will be affected. They will be affected. Because the iniquities are visited to the children, now listen to this, to the third and fourth generation, your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. That ought to be enough motivation for us as men to say, I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to deal with this inward motivation, this iniquity. By the way, remember, transgression is outward, iniquity is inward. Just to show you how perfectly the Bible fits together, Isaiah 53 verse 5 says he was wounded, that's an outward, he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The bruise is on the inside. That's how perfectly the Bible fits together. Here's the number 3 thing I want to tell you. Impurity will affect your relationship with God. It's amazing to me that men think that they can have a good relationship with God and still have sexual impurity in their life. And I believed it. I was in bondage. I was deceived. You need to understand